Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have some terrifyingly fascinating and terrifying encounters to share with you. Before we get into today's upload, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version, written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. They are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to those books are in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? Before we get into these encounters, I'd like to discuss something quickly. Now, when we get into the field of cryptozoology, we are, drawn into it out of maybe a fascination of the unknown, or maybe we had an encounter, or it's just something that, I don't even know, naturally we just gravitated towards. I had an encounter. Many of you have. Some have not, but still fascinated. There's a thing that when we get into this, for some reason we kind of forget. And it is that we are in the field of study. It's a study, and we are studying something that has no scientific basis yet. So what we are doing is we are evaluating theories, speculations. We are looking at encounters first and second hand, possibly even third hand. You know, like this was my dad's uncle's encounter. And then every once in a while, throughout this, talking to different people, you meet somebody who kind of puts the brakes on everything for you. And that happened to me last night. I met a gentleman named Mark Maychek. I had a wonderful conversation with him. He also is the gentleman who shared the research, the Sasquatch research expedition with us. But his theory and ideas, it just stopped me dead in my tracks, because they may have been a little different than mine, but then as he and I talked more and more and more, they kind of interwoven with each other. And that's, how things really work and should work. People should be accepting of others' theories and speculations, because regardless of how long you have done this and how many research expeditions you've been on, and there's always those snooty, snippety little, prissy cryptozoologist people that, they just think that they can do no wrong and their theory is the only theory, which makes absolutely no sense. It's like jumbo shrimp. It's a theory. A theory is not etched in stone. But Mark opened a door last night for me that I'm going to have a hard time walking out of, because since I was about 17, I have researched everything from cryptids, paranormal, the occult, not the cult, but the occult, alchemy, Crowley, Freemasons, the Illuminati, UFOs. One of my favorite books is Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. And he kind of inserted the religious aspect into it. And yeah, I know that a lot of people do, and a lot of people say this is the biblical second coming or, end of times, but no, that's not what we were discussing. It was far more mind-blowing. And wow. Anyway, I'm hoping to continue to have conversations with Mark. And I'm hoping that one day I can have him on and share his theories, because as long as I've been doing this and as many people as I've interviewed, his theories are not that far off, but just at a different playing field, like just a different angle. But yeah, so and he doesn't like to do interviews anymore because of the BS and everything, and it's a shame because he has a ton to offer, and that's what really puts me off with these quote unquote experts when there is no experts. You got a guy that's been in the field for 5 years and he's like 63 years old, and this is, he knows all because, well, one, he's 63 and he's used to just people kissing his ass, and I've got 5 years of experience. Well, that's great, because I've been looking into these things for 28 years. And I don't think I'm an expert at all. I'm the furthest thing. I just throw ideas out there, and maybe one day the idea will open up into something good. But, the whole real gist of it is that we get the truth. And I don't really care who gets the truth. I feel bad for that guy that, is standing there in his living room, probably in his Superman underwear, saying, I am gonna get the truth. It's gonna be me that discovers Bigfoot and Dogman. Or I will break the cycle of the 411, Those ultra pompous worms. And they are who ruins it. But who truly make it something special is the ones that just kind of stay under that radar. And I really met someone special yesterday. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because it seldom happens. I mean, I talk to a lot of great people, don't get me wrong, a ton of great people, but someone that makes me question my own theories and then put them with his to make something, because he was sharing some theories, and then I came back with one, and he was like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. And it was a very, very cool, just because two people, different views, came up with something that may be just one clue. And that's all we need to do. We need to just be accepting. So, all right, I'm going to shut my face on this one for now, but I just needed to share that with you guys. So let's move on. Today's first encounter. I'm going to share with you an experience that is 100% true. My grandfather lived in Mighton, Utah, and told me stories about skinwalkers and how they could take the form of animals or anyone they knew. I asked him one day, had he ever seen one, and he told me yes, and I asked when. a long time ago, well before you were born, before your mother was born. It was when I was young and foolish I went to the valley of the skinwalker. It's a valley where life never enters, not even crows. The very guardians of death will not go there. They too fear the evil that lives out there. He continued the story. I went out there to show the people that nothing evil existed in the valley, nothing but their fears, but I was wrong. He went on that he had gone to Skinwalker Valley in his old red Ford truck to prove everyone that what they thought they knew were just stories used to scare them. When he reached the valley, he remembered the grass was black, as if it had been burned and survived the fire. The trees looked dead, but were still alive. He told me that he had seen a house not far from where he had stood. It was old and the roof was caved in, the door was gone. So he walks toward it. He sees strange markings on the sides of the house. Animal skeletons were strewn around the property, as if it was a sacred burial ground. Then he heard his grandmother. She had died long ago, but he heard her. The spirits were calling for him, for his life, for his skin, his blood and soul. They were the lost souls that could change form from man to beast. They chased and scared him, and told him that they would never forget him. Whenever I would visit my grandpa, he would show me something that was brand new, but had been broken the next day. These spirits would kill his animals, so he finally stopped keeping his dogs outside. It got to the point where I snapped at him, telling him his stories were lies. I told him to prove it. He turned around and pulled up his shirt. All I could do was gasp as I looked at his back. It was torn here and there. Not one part of his back was unmarked. There were wide claw marks, too straight and too far apart to be made by a human. I was scared and started to cry. I remember my mother running to see what was the matter. She screamed and ranted at my grandfather as she held me, but he did nothing but stare at the field across the road from his house. She finally gave up and carried me inside. But as I looked over my mother's shoulder, I saw it, a large black dog with white eyes. It was watching my grandfather, and he was watching it, as if it waited for it to attack him. It never did. I never saw that dog again. Grandfather died 2 months later. The doctors said his heart gave out, but I knew that was a lie. His arms had fresh claw marks. That was 42 years ago. No one has ever believed me, but this is a true event, so I'll tell it to you guys. I want the world to know, never to look into a skinwalker's eyes. It will never forget you. If you do, sooner or later, it will have your soul. You can fight and refuse to give in to the skinwalker's power. But if that's the case, then I hope you're not afraid to die. Today's second encounter. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm a herpetologist. I travel frequently into the North Georgia mountains, up into Helen area, into the National Forest. And on this day I was going up there to observe some wildlife that I frequently study. It was in September, approximately 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and I was going to my usual sites, and I had observed that I was walking about. It was 5 minutes before I was up to one of the sites, and there was no wildlife activity. I didn't notice it at first, but I did later on, and as I was walking, I came up to a ridge and noticed there was something diagonally from me. It was on the ground, and it was not moving. I was about 10 to 15 feet away. I got up to about the distance, and it jumped up and spun around very quickly. I realized, this was something very out of the ordinary, something I had never seen before, and it was sitting there. It was staring at me, and some minutes had passed. At this point, it was making moans or growls. It was making sounds close to that. That's the best way I can describe them. It was man-like, approximately 7.5 to 8 feet tall, and 4.5 feet from shoulder to shoulder. It was very large. Some might say it was ape-like, but in my opinion, due to my study of various wildlife, it was not anything close to being an ape. It was like a man. There was absolutely nothing ape-like about it. It was very muscular. The hands, the best I can describe the hands, were about the size 13 or 14 or maybe even larger, as far as trying to fit a ring on it. Very muscular. I can't stress that enough. The eyes were, you could see the whites of the eyes, unlike other creatures. They were squinted aggressively. The forehead was not ape-like. It was more Homo sapien than ape. It did have full body hair, with the exception of its hands and feet. There was hair on its knees and elbows. It had hair like a man. The teeth, I was able to observe the teeth, as they were bared most of the time. The teeth were that of a man. They did have 3 or 4 canines, but they were worn and pretty nasty. The skin on the hands. I stood in front of this creature for a significant amount of time. I didn't know whether to run or just stand there or whatever to do. Definitely this creature could outrun me. Like I was saying, the hands and the skin, they were tanned. They weren't black. I wouldn't even say they were dark brown. They were just tanned. It did have fingernails, human. They didn't have blood on them. I was able to tell that. This was all happening, and I was observing his hands, and he was sizing me up. That's the best way I can describe it. And at that point in time, he picked up a log. I was able to observe that. He was most likely right-handed. I know this is going to be hard to believe, but it's true, and it chucked it in my general direction. Notice I said he. It did have male sexual organs. I was able to observe that. No tail. It walked upright. It had brownish reddish hair. It was matted. I'm not 100% sure if it was due to the Georgia clay or if that was his actual color of the hair. I was able to observe it was a mix between brown and red. After it chucked the log, at this point in time, I started backing up slowly. You know, it didn't charge me or try to beat me or anything like that I was expecting. As I slowly backed up, there was a strong stench, body odor, somewhat that of a wet dog, but I'd say probably 100 times stronger. I was backing up, and this all happened within, I can't say for sure, but it was over 2 minutes that I was standing in front of him. And I slowly started to back up down the ridge, and eventually I got out of sight, and I made a beeline back to where I had come from. It was definitely real, beyond a shadow of a doubt. It was what some might say was a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, or whatever. It was not a man. It was not a native creature that's seen every day. Someone might make their own decision about it. That's all I've got to say. This was definitely real, beyond a shadow of a doubt. It was what some might say Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever. It was not a man. It was not a native creature that's seen every day. Someone might make their own decision about that, and that's all I have to say. I'd say it weighed 400 pounds. The forehead was sunken back, and the shoulders were more forward than a proper. I don't have proper posture. It was definitely leaning forward than straight up. It's rare to see somebody that would be as muscular as this creature. It was exhibiting more cautious, on the verge of aggressive. The eyes, I was able to observe, the eyes did have more, I wouldn't say downright fear, but there was aggressiveness there. The eyes were squinted, the breathing was rapid, and going by the noises the creature was making, it was threatened. Today's third part of the upload. When I was in my first year of college, I lived with my mom by ourselves. My dad had passed the year before, and we moved out of that house shortly after. I was glad because I suffered a lot of paranormal trauma growing up there. Glad to get out. One night I was driving home on Highway 111 North after youth group, and I saw something that still bothers me. It was lightly raining that night. Mist crawled across the road from the cow fields on either side. The lights from the few gas stations nearby were reflecting on the wet asphalt. I was driving about 3 car lengths behind a dark minivan with nobody else in sight on the roads. All of a sudden I saw the van swerve to miss something in the middle of the road. I was going too fast and the road was too slick to miss it. All of a sudden I saw framed in my headlights and silhouetted in the glowing red brake lights of the van speeding away a tall muscular man with the upper shoulders and head of a buck. It was like a minotaur, but a deer head instead of a bull and glowing red eyes. I clinched and braced for impact and then passed right through the figure. It was like it dissolved right into the mist. I'm used to swerving to miss deer at night, but I should have nailed this thing on the driver's side. Nothing. I was too afraid to look in the rearview mirror as I gassed it and sped home. I was only a couple of miles away, which was both comforting and terrifying at the same time. I raced in the door and locked it behind me. I told my mom, who laughed it off, but was concerned at my pale, clammy complexion. To this night, I still don't know what I saw on that dark Highway 111, but I will never forget it. Today's fourth encounter is a subscriber submission. Hello, Jeff. I've been listening to your channel for a few months now. I like your honesty. I'll be 54 in July. I'm not well. I had heart surgery in 2008, lifelong diabetic, since I was 12 years old. I live with my daughter. We have a small ranch with a couple of horses, many chickens, and we raise border collies. I did try to contact you on Facebook without any success, but no worries. I know you're busy. Actually, guys, I don't use Facebook. I have a hard time with social media, like keeping up with emails, Facebook DMs, this, and that. So the best way to contact me, everyone, is through emails. Just now, back to this. Sorry. I listened to Victor, and I do believe him, because on the show he stated vampires are real, and located mostly in California and Nevada. He is right. The first time I've seen them was in August of 2000, August 6th to be exact. I lived in Las Vegas, on the west side, not in a good neighborhood, but I raised pit bulls, so I felt somewhat safe. At the time, I was researching vampires on the web, talked to a few so-called, not that I really believed them they were. I think it was a Sunday night, August 6th of 2000, and I had my niece and nephew spending the night with my daughters. My oldest is about 13, I believe her cousin was 13 or 14, somewhere within there. My youngest was asleep on the couch. She was a baby, about 4 years old. My husband at the time was asleep in the bedroom. Me and the kids were up watching TV. I heard a noise on the front porch. My porch was upstairs with a locked gate, too high to get up and over because you had to stand on the first step to open it, but it was locked. So I went to look out the door peephole, and there stood 3 guys, 2 in long dusters, 1 in an army style with shaved head. He was a large guy. The other 2, one had long black hair, and he was really nice looking. The third, I thought I knew him from speaking with him online, but he was in Rochester, New York. He had medium-length curly hair, probably 5'10", the other 6 foot. The big guy was well over 6 foot. I'm 5'3", so he looked big. One of them motioned to me to come outside. No fucking way. I was going out there. Something was not right. I didn't go out there until sunrise when they left. Then the others started showing up, mostly wearing dusters. Here's the thing. They were jumping from my porch, going straight up. I think the original 3 were protecting us. I had this all written down, but my ex-husband threw it away. They stayed until morning. Also, I had my niece and nephew look on the porch. Without telling her anything, I said, "What do you see?" She told me 2 guys in long coats, 1 in an army jacket. So many were coming and going, I have no idea what they wanted. I know this sounds nuts, but it happened. Another came back to the apartment later that year, another story. He was different from the original 3. He had long, dirty blonde hair and wore a leather vest, biker looking. Very threatening. He stayed downstairs. Also, my neighbors put garlic on my stairs, then moved away. They must have seen them as well. I've seen them a total of 5 times. I wish I could remember more. I just know we were scared, and it was a very long night. I knew when Victor said they were in Nevada that he was real. I've had other weird stuff happen to me all my life. It's been happening. I don't know why, it just does. I've not told anybody about this vampire thing because it's too unbelievable. I don't want anything or to be on your show, but I would like it if you could ask Victor if he may know what was happening then, why they were there. I lived on Illinois Street in Las Vegas. Last time I seen two. One was a woman, was around 2014. I lived next to Hard Rock Casino. Her and a guy followed me right up to my apartment door. I just happened to notice them following me when I was taking my dog out that night. I started running back to the apartment. I knew what they were. She was looking right into my door peephole, and then they were gone. Just they have this way about them. It's hard to explain. It's almost purposeful. I know how this sounds, believe me, but it happened. I've also heard howling at my home here in Redacted, Nevada. Like people mimicking coyote. No people around though. And I would have seen 10 or more people. My neighbor called me. He was scared, asking me what the hell was that. I told him coyotes. He said no, it sounds a lot like people. And I knew he was right because it did. I took my Kimber 9mm, good choice, and started down the driveway. I see nothing, no people around. It was coming from the northeast corner, where, redacted, my neighbor's fence met mine. My dogs would come out. Now they chase coyotes off. I shot a coyote after my dog chased it out. It was huge, dark gray, bigger than my collies. They killed a bunch of my hens and left them ripped apart. But I've never heard coyotes sound like that, and my dogs were quite not normal. Redacted is an old man. He wouldn't go outside, he was scared. I got scared in the driveway when I couldn't see anything, so I went back into the house. I don't know what it was. I think it was 2019 when it happened, sometime in the fall. It was dark early. I've never heard that again, but I do hear and see coyotes around. I put a hot wire of 12K volt to keep them out. Redacted is a strange place. Strange things happen there. I used to live down the road from Art Bell's place, but I live on the other side of Redacted now, towards California. Sorry for so long, all over the place, but so much to tell you. Wow. Really quick. Let me check something here. I am honestly blown away about this one because, and I'm going to email this person back because I'd just like to talk to her. I know she doesn't want to be on the show, but I got a couple questions to ask her. I redacted the couple of things because I don't want people to know where she lives now. But yeah, definitely crazy. And, anytime I get a story or I speak to somebody that can prove Victor's real, I share it just because there are so many doubting Toms out there. But I know he's real, and a lot of you know he's real, and in time, hopefully everyone will realize he's real. Probably not though, because even the most normalist of people will always doubt something. So who knows? But an amazing, terrifying encounter. Thank you for sharing that with us. I truly appreciate it. Today's fifth encounter. I've been stewing on this experience for a while, and not gonna lie, had a few drinks, so pardon the errors and rambling. Not a great storyteller. This takes place in New York midsummer. It was my best friend's last day at his old house, which was filled with weird shit. I've experienced stuff there, and have a few experiences that can be boiled down to ghosts, all the way to feeling like my life is in danger, which is why I refused to spend the night there, as that was when the feeling came. So this was their last day at the old house, getting all their stuff to their new house. I was helping them that day. All I remember from that day was walking into the house, seeing the windows filled with dead flies, more than I thought could be in a house, and then driving to their new house at night, which had to be at least 8 hours of missing time. I was confused and asked them, "Where are we?" and was told that we are in bumfuck nowhere town on the way to their new house. I said, "But we never got the rest of your stuff." My friend's brother looked at me concerned and said, "Yeah, we did. What happened?" I said, "And just told they would tell me later." This is a story best to come from their mouth, as I can't remember it. Just 8 hours, poof, gone, and only their word of what happened. All they said was I was very quiet the whole time when shit went down in that house. We were driving, and we noticed there were no cars on the road, which was strange, as we were going through quite a few small towns, and it was still early on a Friday night. The little brother mentions this, and as soon as he does, a bunch of cars come around the corner at this point. It's just circumstance, but there will be a pattern. We keep driving, we notice all the houses are completely empty, like the lights are on, but we see nothing from them, no furniture, nothing. I mentioned this, and boom, the next house we noticed people were standing in the window staring out at our car. We noticed this for the next 3 to 4 houses. This point, we are shitting bricks, and notice this drive is taking far too long. They only moved a few towns over, and this drive was taking well over an hour, and it felt like we had been driving in a cornfield for a while. My friend says, "What the hell is going on? We should almost be there by now." Lo and behold, the cornfield ends. We recognize where we are again. Seeing a pattern yet? Because I didn't. And I said something I regret to this day. Man, what other weird shit is going to happen tonight? As soon as it came out of my mouth, I knew I screwed up, and my friend and his brother started yelling at me, saying, "Why would I say that?" And we got into a yelling match. We never argue, and my friend slams on the brakes. In front of us, what I can only describe is a huge cat-like, the size of a person, with the head of an owl. This, whatever it was, struck so much fear into the 3 of us. His little brother, a 20-year-old dude who played football, just started crying, and I was on the edge of going insane. I want to be in a future scientific career. This shit was making any sense. My friend just stared at it until he said someone grabbed their phone. His battery was dead from the time he was in the old house. This woke me up. I grabbed my phone, and whatever it was ran into the field, into the darkness, as soon as I started pulling it out. We finally get to the new house. We pull into the driveway and back into their parking space. When his brother says, "What the hell is that?" we look up, and we see what we can only describe as a pure white Bigfoot crawling around like a spider. It had red eyes, and it crawled away into the forest. We sit in the car for 45 minutes until his mom arrives. We don't take drugs and don't drink. The best logical conclusion I can come up with is there was a CO2 leak in his old house, and we were all having group hallucinations. This is by far the weirdest day of my life. Sorry for it being so long. I mention this now because my friend said the new owners of the old house have a for sale sign on it. They were there for less than 2 years. I was told they had a thriving daycare for about a year and a half, then suddenly it closed down. Today's 6th encounter. Something that crosses my mind every once in a while is a weird experience I had as a child. I must have been 10 or 11 when I was talking to my friend in our apartment complex in broad daylight, and I saw this huge creature that resembled a wolf, but much, much bigger. In Tacoma, Washington, year I'd say 2009, 2011, I don't know. I knew it wasn't normal. In fact, I stood there in shock the whole time. It was staring at me like it wanted me to see it. It's almost as if it had something to tell me or was trying to communicate with me. I had a feeling it didn't want me to be scared, and I wasn't, just in complete shock as I locked eyes with it. All I did was slowly walk by. Today's sixth encounter. This is something that crosses my mind every once in a while. It's a very weird experience I had as a child. I must have been 10 or 11. I was talking to my friend in our apartment complex in broad daylight and saw a huge animal. It resembled a wolf, but much, much bigger. In Tacoma, Washington, maybe 2009 or 2011, I really don't remember. I knew it wasn't normal. In fact, I stood there shocked the whole time I saw it. It was staring at me like it wanted me to see it. It's almost as if it had something to tell me or was trying to communicate with me. I had the feeling it didn't want me to be scared, and I wasn't. I was just in complete shock as I locked eyes with it. All it did was slowly walk by until it disappeared around the corner. I would say it was maybe 5 feet in height, very large, but not too much visible muscle, pitch black, bright yellow or red eyes. If you watched Twilight, it looked very similar to size and body. I don't think it was a Dogman, as its body didn't look human-like to me or hunched back. But also, it was long ago. I can hardly remember specific details. It was walking on 4 legs, not 2. I remember when I finally snapped out of it. I struggled to tell my friend what I had just saw, as she had her back turned from the direction I saw it. I gathered all my friends in the complex so we could go look for it, but saw nothing and found nothing. This has bothered me ever since. I have a weird feeling as if I had a connection to this creature, and just want to know what it could have been. Well, I definitely think that you saw a Dogman. It was on all 4s, so it's going to look very similar to a dog. Just it's not standing up on 2 legs, so it's not going to be hunched back. And they don't look like humans. They just stand on 2 legs. That's what gives them their humanistic appearance. So, today's final encounter. Northern Virginia, January 2001, 3 in the morning. Several family members living in a remote location heard strange screams or yells coming from the woods, resembling that of a woman crying out in pain. Terrified, they called the police and went to investigate. The police searched the area with high-powered lights, but couldn't find anything. Sometime later, they heard the screams again, and again the police were summoned, and again nothing was found. Next time, they decided not to call the police. Days later, the dogs were heard barking in the backyard. A female witness points the flashlight out in the back and sees 2 huge red eyes looking back at her. She focused the lights on the eyes, but could not make out a figure. She yelled out for additional family members, but the eyes disappeared. She vaguely sees a dark figure run into the woods. A couple of months later, the main witness was taking a stroll near the horse trailer when he saw a huge figure with gray, wiry fur and patches of black. The terrified witness froze in place and fixed the flashlight on the creature, which moved behind the trailer and vanished. Days later, the neighbors saw a similar creature in their backyard. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's upload. Kind of a smorgasbord of cryptid and real creepy events, experiences. Just wanted to do something a little, different today. Definitely terrifying. If you just, look at it the whole way around. The creepy white Sasquatch looking thing with red eyes walking around like a spider is just absolutely goddamn terrifying. God, I'm just envisioning it, my brain is just, thank you brain for being not right. It was like a Jimmy Fallon thank you. Thank you brain for not being right and seeing the white Bigfoot crawling around like a spider with red eyes ready to eat you. Anyway, have a great day, guys, and I appreciate all the support. So, farewell, and see ya!